Caesar and Cleopatra. This is a play written by George Bernard Shaw. This play was written in 1898. It depicts a fictionalized account of the relationship between Julius Caesar and Cleopatra. It was first staged in 1901 in Royal Theatre. The story in this play was set in ancient Egypt. When we trace its genre, we get it as a history play. Let us discuss different acts in it. The first act contains Julius Caesar reaches to Egypt. In the first act, Caesar is alone at night in the Egyptian desert, attracted by a statue of Sphinx. Julius Caesar was attracted by the beauty of the Sphinx. He stood there and decided to return after some time. During the time, he heard a sound of a girl. He was not able to know who it was. He looked at the Sphinx. It seemed to speak with him. Later, he understood that it was not Sphinx. It was a girl who called Julius Caesar. He was startled when a girl addresses him from the pose of the Sphinx. She didn't know Julius Caesar. She called Caesar nearby. The girl who called Caesar was Cleopatra. Julius Caesar didn't understand why the girl standing for. Later, he realized it from her talk. What she told to Caesar was she was afraid of Romans. They would kill them when they come from Rome. Especially, there is a person among them named Julius Caesar. He would swallow the human beings. Here, we could hear the pretty talk of the girl. She is 17 years approximately. Caesar represents probably 50 or 60 years old. There is an age difference here. We can't see an element of romance in it, as some students think about it. What we can see here is a matured Julius Caesar and an immature girl, Cleopatra. In the rest of the story, we can see Julius Caesar who changes immature Cleopatra into a matured one. She is still immature, unable to think that she is a queen. Caesar tries to change the immature attitude of the girl. Later, she talks more about Caesar without knowing the fact that he is sitting in front of her. What she shared with him is the things or the thing which she heard from others. She revealed the fact that she escapes from such issues or stays safe there. Caesar tells her to go to her palace along with him. Julius Caesar says, if you are a real queen, you must have courage. Caesar talks her and he takes her to the palace. When they reach there, the attendants in the palace behaved harshly. They treat her as a servant or as a page. Caesar doesn't like this approach, this behavior. He wants Cleopatra that she is the queen here. Therefore, she has to make them obedient. She replies that she can't behave so. To this response, Caesar shows his dislike and wants to return. After a while, she pleaded him not to go from the court and ready to do anything to become a real queen. Students, the thing that is to be noted here is Cleopatra says all these things without knowing the identity of Julius Caesar. She considers him as a common man of good behavior and talks to him at that moment. By obeying the words of Caesar, she started to behave accordingly. Now she is confident as a queen. That is, she turned her voice from request to order or command the attendants. It was the first change brought in Cleopatra by Caesar. Later, the Roman army marched there and saluted Julius Caesar. At the point of time, she realizes that the fact that the man who is with her and the man who is talking with her is real Julius Caesar. And the army belongs to Caesar. She amazed by the scene and hugs him. Second scene or second act includes Julius Caesar goes to the royal palace in Alexandria in order to visit Ptolemy, King Ptolemy. He is Cleopatra's brother, aged 10. His tutor, Theodotus, an aged one. We can see Achilles though in this act. He is the general of Ptolemy's group. Another character in this act is Pothinus. He stands as a god though. He controls the country. As soon as Caesar reaches there, he greets everyone. He reveals his need, his intention. The intention of his arrival or his visit is to get money, and informs that his team start to collect tax. The Egyptians were not able to give the amount imposed by this team. Moreover, they were not interested to give tax to others from another country. The next issue takes place among them relating to who reigns the country, whether Cleopatra or her brother Ptolemy. It became a matter of talk. Caesar finds a solution to settle the problem. That is, both of them, both Cleopatra and Ptolemy, can reign over the country. But they couldn't accept it. They consider it as against their tradition and against their custom. Another striking event or aspect in this act is, as we know, Ptolemy and Cleopatra are brother and sister. At the same time, they are husband and wife. How is it possible? Caesar wanted in this unacceptable information, But others try to convince him that it is the culture in Egypt. Caesar can't accept this due to he is an outsider or came from another country. Why do they follow this strange deed? They have a reason to do it. It is to bring the right to reign over the country by the king's family. Otherwise, it will be ruled by others from other countries. If the persons in blood relation are got married, the authority to reign over the country will not be lost. They try to sustain a tradition. Egyptians do not allow Caesar to interfere in their business. They claim that Egypt is Egyptians' own. They do not allow others to interfere in their matters. Later, Caesar deploys his army and warns them that he came there not for a right and let them free. Later, but Caesar's army suggests that if they are got freed, they would have become a threat. They would attack the army, but Caesar kept them free. But as a defense, measure, Julius Caesar commands his friends Russo and his friend Russo, to bring them the palace and other regions under their control. To bring the region or the country under their control. Later, Caesar prepares different plans at night. For a long time, he was sitting during night and made different plans for the development and the upliftment of the country. Cleopatra enters and asks why does he take the risk as he is a king? As a reply, he asks who told her so. She informed that her father was a king and he did not take any risk as he is taking, like Caesar. She also informed that when her father's crown was lost, it was later returned by a soldier from Rome. During the time, although she was 12 years old, she was attracted by him. Caesar reveals the secret that the soldier was sent by him. She was more interested in it and asked to tell more about him. She wants to hear the story at all. She wants him to know his name. Caesar says it was Mark Antony. His name is Mark Antony. She expresses her interest by repeating the name thrice. 3 times she murmured the name Mark Antony. Mark Antony? Right. When she saw him at her 12 years, Mark Antony was a man of strength with a shining face. She wants to know whether he has a love affair. Caesar says, yes, he has a love. She becomes so sad at the time. She desired to be his first wife or first love. Not wife, first love. But unfortunately, she can't own the position. but wants to know, does he love Cleopatra? And can Caesar inform the matter to Mark Antony that she is loving him? Caesar agrees and says that he'll inform him when he reaches in Rome. She was excited and became pleasant. It was at the time she came to know about the war by Egyptians. Now that is not a time to have the discussion. Now, this war is led by Achilles' army. Julius Caesar decides to shift to the nearby lighthouse. There were two ships on the left and right sides. He orders to fire the ships. No, fire a ship which is anchored on the left side. He thinks that when the ship is being fired, the army turned their attention to put out the fire during the time he can escape. But before the ship is fired by Caesar's army, Achilles' army had already done it. The fire from the ship spreads into the nearby library. On the site, the soldiers try to extinguish the fire. Meanwhile, Caesar and his army go to the lighthouse, escaped to the place. Cleopatra also wants to go with him, but he doesn't allow her. He informs that if everything will be alright today, he'll return in that evening. He goes to the lighthouse. Now he can observe the movements of Egyptians when they are ready to attack Caesar's army. Later we can see another character, Apollodorus, who sells silk carpet in courts. He approaches Cleopatra's palace and talks about the beautiful carpets which he brought. Cleopatra wants to present a carpet to Caesar. In order to know his preference, she goes to Caesar's place along with Apollodorus. But there is another predicament. She is not permitted to go nearby, or Caesar's soldiers do not allow her to go nearby Caesar. Apollodorus finds a way. He takes a ferry for rent. He covers Cleopatra with the carpet, wrapped her in the carpet, and takes to Caesar's presence. Apollodorus is permitted to go anywhere. He goes to the lighthouse and talks with Caesar. He reveals that he came there with the gift presented by Cleopatra. She has given a gift. Caesar tells that the time is not meant for accepting a gift. It's crucial. As Apollodorus pleaded again and again, he consented to accept or to show the gift. Later, Apollodorus unwrapped and shows it. Caesar doesn't like it at the time because it is the time of war, so she has to return fast. Caesar informed her. During the time, the lighthouse is surrounded by the Egyptian army. They stood stuck. Apollodorus suggests them to jump into the sea and escape. Let us swim, he said, towards the ship of Rome. It was anchored nearby. He does it first. Apollodorus does it first. Caesar orders others to throw Cleopatra after him and jumped into the sea. The soldiers did so. They escaped by the ship. In Act 4, let's see the scenes after 6 months. Pothinus or Pothinus, let us pronounce it, comes there to see Cleopatra. Pothinus is a war prisoner now. They talk about ruling of the country. After Caesar's departure, who will reign over the country Egypt? Pothinus wants to see Caesar at the time. Pothinus informs that he has to tell something to Caesar in secret. Caesar doesn't allow him to talk without the presence of Cleopatra. He orders him to tell it in front of Cleopatra. He informs that Cleopatra, by pretending her love, she is secretly trying to gain the authority to reign the country. On hearing this, Cleopatra became agitated, became furious. But Caesar takes it as a usual thing. Usual thing. Cleopatra cannot accept it. She ordered her servant Tatatite to kill Pothinus. Later, they sit for a feast. It was a secret, the conspiracy. It was a conspiracy to her servant in order to kill the Pothinus. Later, they sit for the feast. As I said, Cleopatra, Caesar, and others have food and talk. Meanwhile, they heard a loud noise, a screaming. It seemed that something is put in water. Later, they realized that it was Pothinus. He was killed and thrown to water. Pothinus was considered as a hero in the region, in the heart of the people there. So the people became furious. The killing could not be accepted by them. They could not tolerate it. They were ready to attack. Cleopatra admits that she did it due to his contempt towards queens in general. And to a queen in Egypt, he blemished the position of queens and showed disrespect through his words. He condemned a queen in Egypt. Therefore, she ordered to kill him. Now, Cleopatra appears not as an immature girl whom we saw in the beginning. Now he is bold and matured enough to take actions. We find her boldness from the conversation between Pothinus. In that conversation, she tells him that if Pothinus befriends and stays with Caesar for 6 months, anyone will be changed. You can also change. From this instance, we can see the change in Cleopatra. Later, Caesar goes to the rioters to talk and settle the matter through discussion. Caesar's friend Ruby realizes that it was done by Tatatite, the name. So, Ruby killed Tatatite. Act 5. In this part, we can see an epilogue here. We understand after the issue, Caesar returns. He bid adieu to all and appoints his friend Rufi as Egyptian governor. Finally, Cleopatra enters with a dress which symbolizes sadness or the death of a friend. She asked, not as a friend or servant, she asked to Rufi about the murder of Tatatiti. Rufi said that that means she murdered her not as a punishment, not for revenge or not for justice. It was due to the thought that she would become dangerous in future. That's why he killed her. This reply could not make any change in Cleopatra. She was not ready to forgive them anymore. She was not ready to forgive the murderer. Caesar understood the situation well, and he stood beside Cleopatra and promised her that he would send Mark Antony to Egypt soon. So she became pleasant and calm. Later, Julius Caesar bid farewell to all and goes by a ship. It's the end of the drama.